So I like to think of myself as a generally positive person, but sometimes I do find myself getting into a rut, a mood, a moment of being not inspired, call it what you want. It's something that some of us from time to time have all experienced. In this video I'll be going over tips and theories on why we get into a rut and how we can overcome it. When you're in a rut, some days can be a struggle, while some days can be a bit easier. It could be brought on by some negative events, or it may not be clear why at all you're feeling this way. It's easy to focus on all the things that are not going right. You might think, I have a great life, I don't have the right to feel this way. It's time to make some changes and regain your spark. As things may be fine as they are, if you're not satisfied, it's time to make some changes and regain your spark. When you're in this phase, it starts to become a problem when you're in it for prolonged periods of time. And we start to lose interest in anything and everyone. Every day becomes a repeat of the last. So thinking back, I can think of one time where I was in a deep rut, and I really started to have negative behaviours and thought processes. But before we get into the story of why I got into a rut and how I got out of it, I think the first step to highlight is to become self-aware, to acknowledge the phase that you are currently in. And ultimately, we are responsible for change. Self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand your behaviors and the effects it has on others. And you can start this process by asking yourself simple questions. What thoughts and emotions am I feeling right now? So when I was in a rut, I had to acknowledge that I was in a rut because it was quite easy to lie to myself and say everything was okay when it wasn't. Author Daniel Goleman puts this in simpler terms. With self-awareness, you understand your own emotions, with their impact on your performance. You know what you are feeling and why, and how it helps or hurts what you're trying to do. You sense how others see you, and your self-image reflects the larger reality. So once you actually start to do this, you can become more decisive and set a course of action. Thinking back on my past experiences with people that are quite self-aware, these are usually people that can navigate through a room quite easily. They're quite confident and they're quite they can express their feelings easily, and these types of people actually tend to avoid being in a rut because they're able to express themselves, which will avoid situations of discomfort anyway. Every moment is an opportunity to be self-aware or not. It is a continual endeavour, a conscious choice to be aware. The good news is, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. So going back on my situation, the one time where I found myself really in a rut was after uni, when I was maybe 6 months after uni. I was trying to find a job in my particular niche. I was working but not in the sector that I wanted to work in, that I studied for. And after some time I can actually think back on it now and realise at the time I was getting quite negative, and I didn't like the person I was becoming. I was in a rut. I wasn't doing stuff I enjoyed anymore. I was just not necessarily complaining, but I just thought maybe the world was just conspiring against me, because every interview I went I was rejected, and I just kept on comparing myself to others. Other people would seem like they would be landing jobs more easier than me, and it just seemed like everyone was doing great but myself. And I had become hypercritical about myself and over-exaggerating other people's successes. I came to the realisation this comparison wasn't healthy. It just poked holes in my own self-image, and it created flaws and confusion. So once I became self-aware, I expanded in other areas. I started to do things that excited me more. These had been things that I'd left for quite a while. I had to reconnect with what excited me. So set some time aside, even if it's scheduled, for something that you used to enjoy that you haven't been doing for a while now, and something that you can really reconnect with. So when I was in a rut, I stopped doing all things creative. I'm a highly creative person. I stopped going gym, which led me to be more inactive, which led me to have no energy and not doing anything. It just became a vicious cycle. So one of the many reasons why people stay in a rut is because they lose self-confidence and they don't know where to start. They spend an incredible amount of time thinking about what the most important thing to do is, but eventually accomplish nothing. And you don't need to know everything with absolute certainty. I can't always know if I'm making a decision if it's the correct one, but make the decision to pursue something. So pick up a project and start to invest your free time and energy instead of making excuses and not doing it. So a lot of being in a rut is mindset. If you can switch your mindset to a type of person who thinks the glass is half full instead of half empty, and focus on the progress that you have made, you will be able to evaluate things. You may not be happy right now, but remember where you started from. Even failures can be learning experiences. Your perspective determines how you relate with other people, how you handle relationships and struggles, and how you live day to day. Changing your perspective sounds easy, but it can be hard when you're in this particular phase. Research shown that positive attitude produces brain chemicals that lifts your mood, and you naturally become more relaxed and your perspective shifts to a more positive point of view. In my example, I had to think about my small wins. I had to change my point of view, and all the little things that I had done, the placements, the experience that I had gained, were all actually small wins. So evaluate your situation right now. What has brought you to this stage, and what can you learn from your past experiences? So the next area I'd like to highlight is your self-narrative, the voice inside, how you speak to yourself. And when you're in a rut, it can be very easy to talk to yourself in a negative manner. I always find it really hurtful when someone talks about themselves in a self-deprecating way, where they call themselves fat, or they call themselves silly, or they say they can't do something because they're stupid. I don't believe in this mindset, because I feel like the more you tell yourself this narrative, the more likely you are actually to project this, and that's what you will be, because that's what you've been telling yourself. So imagine your self-narrative, or the inner voice in yourself, is your best friend. So how you would give advice to your best friend, that should be the way you are talking to yourself. So for all those activities that you've been meaning to do, the blog that you wanted to start, the project that you wanted to take up, these are all activities that kind of give us purpose. And when we're not doing these things, it's how we fall into being in a rut. When we're not feeling inspired, when things are not really working out our way, sometimes we lose the bigger picture. We lose vision of the end goal, the plan. If you've taken anything away from this video and you found it beneficial, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And comment below if you have any suggestions, and I'll see you guys in another one.